Welcome back, my movie lovers, to another Zedrick the Critic review. I'm Alec Perez, and today we're going to be reviewing a franchise that is in a galaxy far, far away. Before we begin, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and link the bell to get notified about any new video that comes on this channel. Today, you guys have probably guessed, we'll be reviewing Star Wars. Spoiler alert, I'll be going fully deep into the franchise, and if you have not seen the franchise, I suggest turn off this video, watch all the movies to it, and come back to my honest opinions about how the review is. So today, we're going to be reviewing the Star Wars franchise. I am not going to be reviewing all of the Star Wars films. I'm not going to be reviewing side stories like The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Rogue One, all those movies. We're going with the OG story, the prequels, and the Disney-bought Star Wars trilogy. So with that being said, everybody, let's get into today's video. So let's talk about the basic structure of what the Star Wars franchise is about. So it started all in a galaxy far, far away. You're introduced with Jedi Knights, apprentice being trained as Jedi Knights, space portals, spaceships going through planets to the next, hyperspace into a galaxy far, far away. That's really a basic gesture of the Star Wars franchise and what it really is. You have the light side, the dark side, but let's jump into the very first story of our list. And the first story is Star Wars The Phantom Menace. So we're going in timeline order here, and this is the very first one that starts everything. The review, it made a 52% with critics on Rotten Tomatoes, a 59% audience score, the total achievement $1.27 billion worldwide. When this came out, everybody was very excited to see it, because the very last Star Wars, The Return of the Jedi, that was released in 1983. So you jump 16 years later that we have a fully new Star Wars film that everybody was so excited to see. But what did everybody think about this one? They did not really like it. Let's jump into the story. So the story starts off with two Jedi Knights, Qui-Gon Jinn, who is portrayed by Liam Neeson, Obi-Wan Kenobi, portrayed by Ian McGregor, were sent to have a visit with Darth Sidious. He did not realize who he was meeting up with, and they found out that they were Jedi Knights he's sentenced to kill him. And so they managed to escape, lurk their ways into their first planet destination, Naboo, who is run by the queen herself, Queen Amidala. So this one was a decoy, and it was portrayed by Keira Knightley, who we know who plays Padme, aka Queen Amidala, is portrayed by Natalie Portman. If you look at those actors together, they look exactly the same, which is why I get so very confused. Naboo was running into stuff of their own. They were being attacked by Darth Sidious's army of droids. Naboo was fully blocked out, being arrested, and the two Jedis made it in there exactly the same time with another annoying friend of theirs by the name of Jar Jar Binks, who is portrayed by and Best. And so they fly out of Naboo, manage to escape out of Naboo. They find their first destination to do repairments of their ship in a planet called Tatooine. And that is where they meet with a youngling by the name of Anakin Skywalker that was portrayed by Jake Lloyd. Qui-Gon Jinn found something in this boy, that he was to bring justice and become the leader of everything. He was the next Jedi Master. He was the chosen one. They bring Anakin Skywalker to a planet called Coruscant that they take to the Jedi Knight Temple to see if he is ready to attack this big quest. They at first denounced it. They didn't want to train him at all, and so Qui-Gon Jinn was the one that decided to take him to a planet. He was going to be well trained, and that is story right there. But Queen Amidala was feeling bad that her hometown was being under attack. So they fly back to Naboo and they defeat the armies of Darth Sidious. They conquer justice. We lost some friends along the way in this movie, and that is the end to that story right here. Now, what did I think about this one? When I was very little, I used to really like the prequel trilogies more than the OG ones, and as I got older, I started watching them, and I'm just seeing that this is just so phony. Like, it doesn't feel like a Star Wars film, but we can't always go wrong with the OG ones. I am so excited to even get into those, but if I had to rank this one would be at a number 7. Next up on our list, we have Star Wars Attack of the Clones. Clones. This one received a little bit more better than the first one did, but it didn't achieve very well in the box office. This one received a 65% with critics, a 56% audience score, and the total achievement $653.8 million worldwide. Ranking all of this, I think this is probably the dumbest, but we'll save that for later. Let's get into the story to it. So the story starts off with Padme, Queen Amidala, arriving into Coruscant to talk unfinished business with Chancellor Palpatine, but they were into an attack and the ship exploded for unknown reason, and they couldn't figure out why they were being attacked. Her decoy died, and she brought her complaints to Chancellor Palpatine of why I'm being under attacked by so many of these people. It's just not safe for her. And we find out who is under these attacks trying to kill the queen. A bounty hunter by the name of Jango Fett, who is betrayed by Temuera Morrison. And we'll talk about that in just a moment of where the clones are coming from. But Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi were just coming back from Anakin finishing training. He is now fully a Jedi Knight. This Anakin is portrayed by Hayden Christensen, that we all know who is the actual Anakin Skywalker, as the previous one, Jake Lloyd, backed down to the role of returning back. Padme was being under attack by the bounty hunter I mentioned. Anakin was assigned his first mission to protect the queen. They were going back to her home planet, Naboo. And Anakin Skywalker was having dreams about his mother being killed or just in danger. Now, if you guys may not know from the Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon Jinn could not get his mother and him free from slavery. So Anakin's mother was still back in Naboo, and Anakin Skywalker had to go back to see if she was still alive. And they found out that she was in Tatooine and was married off with her husband. He tells Anakin Skywalker that she was captured by the Sandman people. He tries to find her, and she passed away. Kind of changed Anakin Skywalker, where he just becomes, as you would see with Darth Vader. I'll keep that a secret. But let's drop out Anakin's story. Let's now go into where Jango Fett came from. Obi-Wan Kenobi was going to find out where these armied people called the clones were coming from, and he found this rainy planet run by a very mysterious, creepy looking alien that comes from the Clone Wars, and he has a son that would become eventually Boba Fett. He works for the Jedi Knight by Count Dooku, portrayed by Christopher Lee. So Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and Padme lurk paths into each other. They battle it out with these three monsters. The Clone Wars and the Jedi Knights found where they were, and they were battling out with each other. I mean, you got Yoda, who's portrayed by Frank Oz, Mace Windu, portrayed by Samuel Jackson, battling out all together, and it's a cool thing ever, and that is the gesture to the story right here. So this one, I actually really liked this one growing up. It was one of my favorites when I was very little. I don't like it as much anymore as I really used to, but ranking all of this together, it's at the top 5 spot because it's still actually a really good movie, but this one is at a number 5. Next up, we have Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. So this was the finale of the prequel trilogy, and I gotta say this one was one of the biggest movies because we get to see where Darth Vader finally comes in. But we'll get into the story in just a minute, but let's just talk about how this movie achieved. So this received a 79% fresh tomato score with critics, a 66% audience score, and the total achievement $868.4 million worldwide. When this came out, I think everybody was just very excited to see that this is just the finale of the Star Wars trilogy of the prequels. We get to see where Darth Vader is really actually coming in and just really get to see how this prequel trilogy ends. But let's get into the story. So the story starts off with Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker in space battling it with the armies that is run by General Grievous, who is portrayed by Matthew Wood. This new apprentice of Darth Sidious is a very baddie, and I gotta say it's one of the best villains I've seen out of all of the apprentices that Darth Sidious has. And anyways, so the story goes into Padme pregnant. Anakin Skywalker found out when he came back from his mission. Anakin Skywalker was a bit hesitant at first, but yet also very happy. But as you may guys know, in the Attack of the Clones, Padme and Anakin Skywalker were madly in love with each other, and they wanted to marry. They knew that the fact, according to Jedi rules, that you cannot actually get married. So they kept their love relationship very private. Then things started going off it as when Padme was pregnant. But that is not who the story is about. She's the subject of the story. This is really about Anakin Skywalker. He has a dream again. Instead about his mother, it's about Padme. She died in childbirth in his dream. He was scared that he will lose her. He keeps her safe in Coruscant, does not have her leave at all. And Anakin Skywalker has been having afterthoughts of joining the dark side. Chancellor Palpatine has been brainwashing him. He was making him betray the good side of all the Jedis. But then there came to a time that he really found out that he was the Sith Lord. And he went to go inform the Jedi Knights, hey, Chancellor Palpatine is who we thought he was all this time, was the Sith Lord. The Jedi Knights battled it out, tried to defeat him. Anakin Skywalker was obviously being dumb and was saying that what you're doing is wrong. You have to save all these people. Like, we can bring them back to the light side. Mace Windu tried to kill him, but Anakin didn't want him, and he killed him. Anakin Skywalker became the new apprentice. Darth Sidious ruled the clones, which later will now become the stormtroopers in A New Hope. He ruled it out the execution of Order 66. Obi-Wan Kenobi found out Anakin has been in these battles, killed the younglings in the Jedi Temple, killed all the Jedi Knights. It was very hard. It was very rushed. It was very heartbreaking. Padme initially found out from Obi-Wan Kenobi, and she had to go investigate where he was. He finds him in a very lava-y planet. She had to confront him of, why are you doing this? And he wanted protection for her. Obi-Wan was sentenced to kill his apprentice. He knew the fact that he was dangerous to live and he had to end his life. That didn't work out completely very well, as Padme was very unconscious as he was choking her. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker battled it out, chopped his hands and arms off, and his legs. Like the sad ending to the prequel trilogy. Fortunately, in terms of his predicaments to his dreams, came true. Padme died. And that is the story to Revenge of the Sith. It's still a really good one. Like, it's a really good one that ends the trilogy, I have to say. In terms of this is a very sad moment, as we lost a very complete chosen one that was chosen by Qui-Gon Jinn, but really betrayed everybody to go into a very dark path. But ranking all of this together, I really loved this one so very much. I would recommend watching this prequel. This one is so good that it is at a number 3. Alright everybody, we're now getting into the OG films that started everything. This is where Star Wars was a thing, where May 4th become May the 4th be with you. It's just all of that. The next movie on our list is Star Wars A New Hope. Before getting into the whole movie itself, let's talk about how this movie achieved. So this was the biggest movie in May 5th of 1977. So this movie received a 93% fresh tomato score with critics, a 96% audience score, the original box office. So I got 2 box office achievements. In 1977, this movie made $410 million worldwide. Now, the new box office that has been re-released throughout the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, this made altogether $775 million worldwide. This went very high with increase of re-releases. This was the biggest movie. My mother was at least 13 or 14 when she went and saw this. But anyways, let's talk about the story of it. So the story starts off with 2 droids, surprisingly never mentioned about. C-3PO, portrayed by Anthony Daniels, R2-D2, portrayed by Kenny Baker. They were the previous past droids owned by Anakin Skywalker. Those droids carry a big message that Darth Vader was trying to get out of them. They were in Lord Organa's ship, and they were under attack by stormtroopers and Darth Vader himself to get these droids and bring them to him. They managed to escape somehow. You got C-3PO, who's his normal self, and R2-D2, who doesn't talk, but he's a complete stubborn droid. I love those 2 together. And they make their ways into Tatooine. They get captured by Wookiees and were sentenced as slave droids, and they made it to their first destination, to the Skywalker family. You got Uncle Ben, Aunt Rue, and Luke Skywalker, the lovely little kid who has big dreams, and he is portrayed by Mark Hamill. Luke Skywalker is very sensitive. He wanted to go off into the world and experience what it's like. But Uncle Ben and Aunt Rue are very protective, since Darth Sidious would capture them. Eventually, they found where the droids were, but they go find where they were trying to taking these droids to the city. They run into old Ben Kenobi, who is portrayed by Alec Guinness. Now, Obi-Wan, old Ben, brought Luke Skywalker and the droids to his home and introduced Luke Skywalker to a sword, which is called a lightsaber. They investigate where those droids came from, and him finding out initially that those droids and the Sandman people and the Wookiees would have initially found out that they would have lurked into their first place that they sold them. Uncle Ben and Aunt Rue died. Luke Skywalker had nowhere else to go, and he went and started his training with old Ben Kenobi. They were needing of a ship, and that's where they run into Han Solo, portrayed by Harrison Ford. They sell him this very iconic ship, which is the Millennium Falcon, everybody. I actually saw it in Disneyland. It was so amazing. But anyways, they travel into space, and initially trying to find what this message was from R2-D2 by Princess Leia, who is portrayed by Carrie Fisher, captured by Darth Vader. And they were in need of go rescuing her. So they rescued her. Old Ben died. He sacrificed himself. That's where they found out the starship called the Death Star. And they land into Organa's planet to defeat the Death Star, all the people on there, and blow it up. They managed to succeed, and Luke, Han Solo, and Chewbacca, Han Solo's right-hand man, made history. And that is the end to A New Hope. I really loved this one. I at first never really liked the OG Star Wars because I was never so much into the classic movies for some odd reason. But watching all these together, I have this at a number one. Moving on, everybody, we are now approaching our next movie, the fifth movie, Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. Now, this movie received 95% fresh tomato score with critics, 94% audience score with the total achievement, 401.5 million worldwide. So I tried to find if this was ever re-released, and it seemed like that this movie wasn't, but if I am getting this predicament wrong, let me know in the comments. Let's get into the story of this one. The story starts off in a planet called Hoth. Luke Skywalker is on an investigation of looking for something. He got hit by snowman people and was conscious. You have their fortress. It's surrounded by Leia's Organon armies. They were finding out that Luke Skywalker wasn't coming back. Han Solo went to go find where Luke Skywalker was. He couldn't find him until he found him out in the middle of the snow. He stayed out there. It was getting too much of a snow blizzard. They were out there for a whole day. Luke Skywalker had some kind of thing he had to do, so he left the planet Hoth. He left Han Solo, Princess Leia, 3PO alone. R2-D2 went with him. He was trying to find a Jedi Master by the name of Yoda. When he was conscious, Luke Skywalker had a vision of old Ben Kenobi telling him that he needs to go to Yoda, who is a Jedi Master, to finish his training. And he found where the planet was. It's a very old, mysterious, swampy planet. His ship gets stuck, and he found out where he was, got his training done from Yoda, and that's where he needed to face off Darth Vader. But let's take off Luke Skywalker and then jump into the story of Han Solo, Princess Leia, and 3PO. They are on their way to the Sky Planet, and they're met with Orlando, who is portrayed by Billy D. Williams. Now, Orlando was a good friend of Han Solo. He had a job offer from Lord Vader to bring Han Solo and Princess Leia to him, and he did as requested. He betrayed them, and they had to sacrifice one, and Han Solo was the one to sacrifice himself for Princess Leia and Chewbacca. It was a very sad moment right there where he was turned into stone. And that's where Boba Fett comes in. Boba Fett takes him to another mysterious planet that we'll talk about in the next movie. But Luke Skywalker managed to get into the planet and to face Darth Vader. Darth Vader had a predicament that somebody was coming. So it's kind of like a Jedi thing where you can predict something that's about to happen. So they were battling out, and he found out something very upsetting. He was telling him the story of how his father died. In A New Hope, Obi-Wan Kenobi was mentioning that his father was killed by Darth Vader. But let's twist that around. That's not exactly how the story really goes. Darth Vader is the father to Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker did not take it very well, and Darth Vader was trying to allure him to join forces and rule the galaxy as father and son. He didn't want that, so he managed to escape out of the Sky City, and Princess Leia was starting to get that afterthought that they had to go back to get Luke Skywalker. Orlando somehow joined forces with them since he betrayed them. Not sure why. he kind of changed his mind, and they managed to get Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker loses a hand, and that is the end to Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back was the biggest movie. Ranking all of this comes at a number 2. Moving on, we have Star Wars The Return of the Jedi. So this is the last movie of the OG trilogy. This movie received an 83% fresh tomato score with critics, a 94% audience score, and the total achievement, $482 million worldwide. Now, this one, I would say this one, out of all of the OG ones, is not necessarily one of my favorites because there's not a whole lot of story into this one. They're stuck in one basic planet that is a very foresty type planet. But enough of the story, let's talk about the story to it. So the story starts off with C-3PO and R2-D2 back in Tatooine, where they were initially in A New Hope. They were trying to get Han Solo back. Found out where he was. He is in the Jabba the Hutt's place, who is this big alien. Luke Skywalker bet them that he could defeat most of his people for Han Solo back. Han Solo managed to get out of that stone he was in for quite a while. They managed to escape, save Han Solo. Luke Skywalker had to go back to where Yoda was at, his planet, because he was at that time of death. He was dying, and he brought him a message. He was saying that he was not the only Skywalker. And then old Ben Kenobi appeared back into his vision, and he told him, why you didn't tell me that Darth Vader was my dad. Ben Kenobi sort of told him, but he didn't want to tell him what he really meant. He really did mean that Darth Vader is your dad. And he also told him, you also have a sister. And that confused him really so much. I was like, I don't have a sister. But then he really thought about it for a minute. I was like, no. You're telling me that Leia, the princess, is my sister? Yes, but enough of Luke Skywalker. Let's now jump into Darth Vader. So Darth Vader was being visited by his master, Darth Sidious, who was still actually portrayed by Ian McDiarmid. And they were trying to bring Luke Skywalker to defeat his dad and join forces into the dark side. Luke Skywalker was predicting that he was going to eventually face his dad, and he didn't want to at first. He was trying to bring him back to the light, and it was not working clearly enough. They were also in the depths of creating a new Death Star. They were battling out in the new Death Star. Luke Skywalker succeeded. He defeated his dad, didn't want to join forces into the dark side, so Darth Sidious was electrocuting him to death. Then Darth Vader started really thinking some afterthoughts, and he killed his own master, and he was dying too. They succeeded. They defeated the Death Star, and they all lived happily after. So I've always thought of what the reason is why they named it The Return of the Jedi is because, well, for centuries after the events of Revenge of the Sith, nobody didn't want to come back to becoming a Jedi unless they really wanted to. Because in my afterthought, Darth Vader would probably hunt down those Jedi Knights that come back and kill them. I really loved this one. I kind of wish that they visit more planets instead of sticking with the same planet. So this one succeeded, is at a number 4. Alrighty, you guys, we are now approaching our Disney Star Wars trilogy. We are starting off with Star Wars The Force Awakens. Now, this one was the biggest movie. It's made so much money, and this was the movie that I've only seen in theaters. Let us talk about the review to it and the success. So this movie made a 93% fresh critics score, a 85% audience score, and the box office achievement, $2.66 billion worldwide. I gotta say, when this came out, everybody was so shocked about it. I was very shocked about it. It's a hit and miss. I really liked the first one, and then the two other ones, it started getting more dumber. But anyways, let's talk about the story. So the story starts off with a train shipman. His name is Poe Dameron, portrayed by Oscar Isaac. He has a droid by the name of BB-8, voiced by Bill Hader. And he is under attack by a Jedi Knight Master, Kylo Ren, portrayed by Adam Driver. Kylo Ren is after a piece of map to a secret location that Luke Skywalker is living at. He tries to find where he is. He kills off everybody that's in there, who he hired Captain Phasma, portrayed by Gwendolyn Christie, who is famously known in the Game of Thrones. Everything started changing up a little bit for one person, and that is Finn, who is portrayed by John Boyega. He is a stormtrooper that couldn't stand being a stormtrooper, so he rescues the captain pilot Poe, who was captured by the First Order, and they went back, and we are met up with another new character, Rey, portrayed by Daisy Lurley. Rey's character is a very strange one. She finds lost things, gives them and gets money back for it. She finds BB-8 being under attack, brings him with her, almost sold him, but kind of thought about it for a minute. Then we're introduced with Finn meeting up with Rey. They were being under attack, and they found the Millennium Falcon, flew out to another shipwreck where we're met with Han Solo, Chewbacca, and they escape from the armies that were after the droid. Then they were taken to another planet that is met with a girl named Maz Kanata, and she is portrayed by Lupita Nyong'o. She is trying to tell the stories that you can't do anything. Go back home, save yourself, reunite with Leia, who is the leader of the First Resistance. They're under attack again, and they were fighting the droid. Kylo Ren had visions that Rey has something to do with this. Rey was captured by Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren brought her back into his ship. Finn was upset about this, and they were met with Princess Leia, brought them back to her base. Finn somehow found Poe, who he lost when his ship got wrecked with the same planet they were attacking him. They were mentioning about Rey being captured by the First Order, and Finn telling how they run their planet as much as they really needed to attack them. So Chewbacca, Han Solo, and Finn team up together and to look for Rey. They find her. Kylo Ren was met up with his father. If I didn't tell you guys initially, he is Han Solo and Princess Leia's son. Han Solo tried to bring his son back. Kylo Ren did not want to go back with them. And that is where we sadly lose Han Solo. Han Solo was murdered by his own son. Kylo Ren put Finn to sleep. And that's where we see Rey join in and become the Jedi Knight that she was meant to be. Rey had unfinished business to do, and she found the missing piece of the other map and to find where Luke Skywalker was actually. And that is the end to that story. So this story I was very excited. I was 15 years old when I watched this movie, and I was very excited to see it on the big screen. But ranking it all together, it's at a number 6. Moving on, everybody, we are on to our next movie, Star Wars The Last Jedi. So this movie received 91% with fresh critics score, a 42% with audiences. It received $1.333 billion worldwide. Let's get into the story. So the story starts off with Resistance base being under attack. Princess Leia is in space fighting the First Order. The First Order succeeded to kill off the ship. Princess Leia almost died in there. She somehow had the Force, found her way to get herself back into a nearby ship and save herself, which we'll get into the next story. Now, after that, Finn woke up from his coma. He is met with a girl by the name Rose Tico, portrayed by Kelly Marie Tran. This girl, her older sister sacrificed for saving the Resistance. Finn was wondering where Rey was. Rey is in a very mysterious planet that Luke Skywalker is living. Rey was trying to find Luke Skywalker to be trained. Luke Skywalker did not want to train her. Why? Because he just was done with fighting, couldn't do it anymore. Because he turned Kylo Ren into the dark side. That's where we see Han Solo dying, almost losing his mother. And he did not want to lead Rey into that. And Rey found out his secret path of the reason is that he almost killed Kylo Ren. And she's fully trained now, Jedi Knight, to find Kylo Ren. But enough of that, let's get into the other story part of it. So we have a new leader who is taking the role of Princess Leia. We have Vice Admiral Holdo, portrayed by Laura Dern. This did not succeed very well with Poe, Finn, or that mysterious Rose girl. And so Poe decided to ask them to fly to another planet to succeed and find a cure for Princess Leia. They're on their way to the other planet, and they managed to find nothing. And they're brought to the next planet that Kylo Ren and his faithful army was going to attack. And they managed to unsucceed. They brought justice. Luke Skywalker sacrificed himself. And now he's reunited with his old trainer, old Ben Kenobi. Now we have the Last Jedi. And that is the end to that story. What is my honest opinion about this movie? So, I only seen this movie about 3 times. But what do I have to think about this movie? This movie was a very dumb movie. And it's at a number 8 because of all those reasons. Alright everybody, we are on our last and final Star Wars movie. The movie that ends the Star Wars franchise, or I think. But anyways, let's talk about the review. So the movie made a 51% with critics. It managed to receive an 86% audience score. And it still made the $1 billion mark. It received, in the box office, $1.77 billion. That is very good for this run of the movies. These were billion-dollar successes. This last one, the way they ended was just, ugh, what a way to end the Star Wars trilogy. To be honest, you guys, I've only seen this movie twice. It was that disappointing. But let's talk about the story. So the story starts off with Kylo Ren, and he's met up with a uncle of his, mysteriously. But yes, the predicaments are true. Darth Sidious is alive somehow. I'm not sure how he's alive, to be honest. Chancellor Palpatine died in Return of the Jedi. We saw it. He was thrown out into space and was blown to smithereens. We all saw it, didn't we? But anyways, let's now jump into the next part of the story. So Rey is trying to find her powers. Her, Poe, Finn, and Chewbacca were traveling to planets to find exactly who she really was. They were met up with Orlando. She was finding out that she has the power to electrocute, just exactly how Darth Sidious does. And she doesn't find out until she is met up with Kylo Ren that she is mysteriously somehow the daughter to Chancellor Palpatine. Yes, that's how the story goes, that she's a Palpatine. I don't really know much of the story since I've only seen this twice, but really the story is she killed him, Kylo Ren and her have a very mysterious love romance between the both of them. C-3PO lost his memory, and so he doesn't know anything anymore. Princess Leia dies, and Rey finds out that Leia mysteriously was a Jedi Knight and had the powers to bring Force together. And it seems like they all live happily ever after when you think about it, is all these characters are bringing back. It's like a celebration as you would see it in The Return of the Jedi. That's how this Disney trilogy ends. This movie was a major downfall for the Disney company, and which is why this received a number 9 for all those reasons. Ladies and gentlemen, we just reached to the final movie. So stick around and hear my honest opinion about the whole trilogy and my overall review. Alrighty, you guys, so what is my overall review? So my overall review is that Star Wars was the best back in the 70s. When the first one was released in 1977, it became the biggest movie of the year. It was a big phenomenon. Big stars rose up to fame. It was the biggest movie, I have to say, one of the biggest all-time franchises that I know to date that is still being one of the biggest made possible with countless of movies, and which is why I did not want to do all of the prequels and all of the other nonsense detailed stories because this would probably be like an hour-long review, and I didn't want to do that. But if you guys really want me to review those movies off to that side, just let me know in the comments. But if I had to choose a side of which the movies were much better in, I would personally go with the OG Star Wars, because that's when the Star Wars franchise really started. It was a big phenomenon, I have to say. One of the best things that really captured out of all cinema history. That is my honest opinion, guys, of the whole franchise, but let me know what you guys thought of this review. But if you guys really liked this video, I would appreciate if you give this video a like, and be sure to subscribe to my channel. And with that being said, thank you guys again so much for watching the full review to the Star Wars franchise, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.